Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Rosita. I'm Product Marketing Manager at Fundraise Up. And today we're going to be talking about strategies to optimize your donation experience this spring. So just a few quick housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and you all going to receive the recording right after the webinar. So check your email inbox. If you need to step away or you want to share the webinar with your colleagues, don't worry, you'll have the recording. And also we'll send you the resources that I mentioned afterwards. Also, we'd like this to be a two-way conversation, so please do ask your questions in the questions tab. You can find it in the right bottom tab. And also, you can see the chat option. Please communicate with each other, share anything you'd like with your peers, with us. We'll be very excited to hear from you. And actually, let's start using chat straight away. Please drop your name, what your organization, and where you're joining us from. We'll be happy to get to know you better. And while you do that, I'd like to introduce you our panelists. We have three amazing experts joining us today. Guys, please feel free to introduce yourself. Will, let's start with you.
Thank you, Rosita. I am so excited to be here today. My name is Will. I am a senior customer success manager here at Fundraise Up. Work with tons and tons of really amazing organizations, including my good friend Mike at Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. So I'll pass it off to him to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Mike Stafford, VP Director of Development Operations and Analytics at the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. We're Feeding America and Feeding Pennsylvania partner food banks serving 27 counties in central Pennsylvania and approximately 268,000 individuals facing food insecurity every month. I'm excited to be here and share our story with y'all. I'll pass it over to Mariano.
Hi everyone, I'm Mariano. I'm a customer reference and insight lead here at Fundraise Up. Happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you all for dropping something about you in the chat. This is a pleasure to see so many of you from different organizations, from all the locations in the world. That's super, super cool. All right, so this is our agenda for today. First, we'll start with the state of giving today. Then we're going to be talking about the cost of waiting and doing nothing about your donation experience. Then we'll get into the specifics, 10 things holding your donations back. Then we'll give it over to Mike, and he'll share how Central Pennsylvania Food Bank turned problems into solutions. Then we move on to 10 fresh ideas to try this spring and wrap this up with the Q&A. So let's kick this off with the state of giving. So we see among organizations that donors are showing up and demand for nonprofits is at record highs. So the generosity is there, but the question is, why are so many organizations still struggling to capture those donations to actually increase the revenue? And I wanted to share some data with you. This is from the Pulse of the Donor report that was made by Fundraise Up team and Stripe. And what we see is that donors aren't pulling back, they just behave differently. And the paradox is that we see that in 2025, average one-time gifts were down. And at a first glance, it feels like a very bad sign. But if we look closer at the data, we see that actually conversion were much higher. And what's more important is that organizations got more recurring donors. And the reality is that donors just behave differently. They moving faster. And one of the reasons why is that mobile giving is rising. In 2025, it crossed 50% in most markets. What also is interesting is that donors from social channels that are traditionally considered as low value, they converted to recurring donors at twice the rate of email within the first 60 days. So all of this data is super insightful, and we see the opportunity here in your infrastructure. So we think that organizations that grow in 2026 will be built for how donors give today, which is, as I mentioned, mobile first, social driven, and commitment led. So now I'd like to ask you all what sounds more familiar to you in terms of what's holding your donations back. So right now on the screen you see poll. Please check everything that sounds familiar for you. It'll be super interesting to hear your experience. And while you do that, I have a question for you, Will and Mariano. Is this what you hear from organization you work with, and does this match what you see day to day?
I think many of these items on this poll are definitely what I hear from organizations. Specifically, what I'm looking at is, taking a lot of time and resources to be able to launch a campaign. I see Mike nodding his head as well, and maybe this is something that his team has experienced as well. But I definitely see that so often there is so many boxes that you have to check to be able to launch a new campaign and across multi-channels, and being able to streamline that actually is really, really helpful to being able to raise more revenue. Mike, anything to add on that? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The ability to be nimble is something that's incredibly important and has become even more important to us over the past 12 months, 18 months even. If you are unable to act quickly, that's absolutely your platform holding you back. Likewise, if you're not if you're not attempting to capture abandoned donors, folks who have left your cart or left their donation without completing it, you're leaving money on the table. So really, all of those items are potentially holding your fundraising back.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, Mariana, while we looking at the results, do you have anything to add?
Well, actually, since the customers I work with, they are all using Fundraise Up, so many of those issues were in the past. But I do see a lot of them really concerned and worried about increasing the recurring giving and having more recurring donors. So yeah, that's definitely one of the focus of most nonprofits that I work with.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. We'll be sharing the results with you just a few moments later. And now let's talk about what is the opportunity. So as we saw, the problem isn't the donor. They want to give, they come to your page, they start the process. So what is the problem? And oftentimes it's happening between intent and completion. So most nonprofits know something feels off, forms are slow, donation experiences are not as expected, but often many of them put off fixing it for a very well-known reasons. Of course, it's migration. It feels overwhelming, both for organizations and their resources. It feels risky for donors as well. Then it's just never the right season. It's either spring fundraising coming in as now, or it's giving season, year-end campaigns. So it's just never the right time. And the systems technically work most of the time. And why we say most of the time is how we actually move to our next section, which is the cost of waiting. So most nonprofits face their infrastructure problems during crisis. So it never happens on a quiet day. Sometimes the donation form breaks right during the given season, right during given Tuesday or 31st of December. And we actually know many different stories about how awful that felt for organizations. Then another cost is that emergency appeals take too long to launch. Sometimes it's days, it's weeks, where you'd wish it would be minutes. Mobile forms fails during disaster responses, and you have no visibility into whether fundraising actually works. So these are all the costs of waiting. And
Yeah, Mike, I know you've seen a lot of growth over the past year, and a lot of success, which I definitely want to talk about. But if you went back, a year, 2, 3 years behind, and you kind of were experiencing a lot of these problems that Rosita is talking about, tell us a little bit about what your situation was and kind of how you looked at the issues.
Absolutely. We were in a situation late 2024 where we were coming out of the peak giving that we had experienced during the COVID pandemic. It gave us a little bit of a breather to kind of slow down and look at where we were, you know, potentially losing donors. We did not have abandoned cart recovery. We didn't have any type of in donation process, upsells for recurring giving, anything like that. Something that has proven to be very successful for us over the last 18 months since we've implemented it. Overall, we were in a situation where I was regularly during important campaigns staying up to make sure that the form did not break. I specifically remember one experience with a local news station who was running a campaign on our behalf. Wanted to avoid any types of those situations. So while it did work most of the time, it was absolutely requiring a lot of back end effort to maintain that and keep it going. 18 months later, I don't have those same concerns. I sleep well at night knowing that the forms are going to work all the time.
No, thank you, Mike. I think you told a lot of those things to us when we first started working with you, and it's really cool to see that. I don't hear about most of those things now, but when I work with you, but I don't want to. I do want to hold off a little bit before we get to share Mike's awesome results and what he did to kind of turn around a lot of these issues. And I want to kind of recap some of the issues that Central Pennsylvania was experiencing, and some of the holdups that they were experiencing, and then kind of summarize what we see a lot of organizations experiencing when they're looking at, do I need to make a change in my donation experience? And so the 10 things that we see holding organizations back, and Mike's team can definitely relate to many of these. And so first is many organizations form takes too long to load. And so when someone clicks on the link from an ad or from an email, or clicks the donate button in the top right-hand corner of your website, there's the little spinny wheel of death. And it takes a really long time for that to come up, or it is this super long form that is loading and loading and loading, and every single millisecond counts when it comes to that donation process. And I know that I am distracted so easily when I'm on my phone, and any time that something takes a little bit long to load, a notification could come up in that time period, and I could be turned away to something else. Secondly, many organizations are not offering digital wallets. I know that when I especially am making a transaction on my phone, having the button to click Apple Pay is so easy. And in fact, I'm upset if there isn't a button to click Apple Pay. Oftentimes, my credit card is on the other side of the room and I got to get up and walk over there. You might have lost me. Three, the form asks for too much. As I was saying earlier, every second counts when it comes to the process of collecting a donation. You've done all this amazing work to get donors to the form. We recognize that that takes so much work. You have hit them with ads and emails and met them at events, and maybe they've seen 2, 3, 4, 5 different marketing asks from your team, and finally they have made it to this form. And sometimes the amount of fields they have to fill out is what turns them away. What we recommend is maybe some of those fields, put them after the donation, make them not as required. That often can increase that conversion 2, 3-fold. Mike mentioned this a couple of times, is abandoned cart recovery. What we see is that across the donation industry, the majority of donors that start a donation are abandoning at some point. And those donors who have started a donation and have abandoned are much warmer than donors who have never started a donation before. And so why not go after these people and try to recapture them rather than treating them as a completely cold donor? And so if what often organizations forget about is these donors, and they are a huge opportunity to be able to recapture. And finally, ask amounts aren't optimized. Oftentimes, organizations have come up with their array of the amounts that they're going to ask for on their donation form and never change it. Maybe it's an array that your team came up with 5 years ago and donor behavior has changed. And so what organizations need to do is constantly be A/B testing that array. Make sure that it is optimized for your donor base. And if you have the ability to, personalize it to each individual donor, because a donor, not all of your donors are the same. Your donors are in different locations and have different levels of income and have different interests and use different devices. And if you have the ability to personalize that ask amount to all of those different data points, then you're going to be able to ask the exact right amount for each donor. Because if you ask too high, you might be turning some donors away. And if you ask too low, you might be leaving revenue on the table. And so being able to have that optimized ask amount is how you're going to be able to grow the most and raise the most amount of money. I'm going to pass it off to Mariano for the way that this impacts long-term donor value.
Yes, so following up, number 6 is not converting one-time donors into recurring givers. So at the checkout is the best time to ask a supporter to become a recurring donor, and their lifetime value is going to increase exponentially as long as you nourish the relationship and you keep them with you. So if you're not asking for them to become a monthly supporter when they are about to make a donation, you are leaving all of this revenue on the table. The next thing is not making it easier for donors to cover transaction costs. Donors, supporters, they know that there is a transaction cost associated with the donation, and they are happy to cover for it as long as you ask for them and you frame it with the right wording and in the right way. They want to make sure that the gift is going to the cause, and most donors don't mind. What we see here at Fundraise Up is around 80-90% of donors choose to cover the transaction costs, and they are happy with that. But of course, if you're not giving them the option to do that, and if you're not framing this in the right way, you may be missing this opportunity. Number 8 is the way you treat your donors. One-time donors and monthly supporters or recurring givers, they need to be stewards. They need to be tailored in a different way. You need to address them in different ways. You want to keep these recurring givers as long as possible, ideally for the whole lifetime. So they continue supporting, and also because recurring givers provide this steady, predictable income flow. And yes, I think that we can all agree that this is what you need and what you want.
Finally, our last two, moving fast. Mike mentioned that being able to launch a campaign in hours, I would say even minutes, is the most important. I know that I was working with a great organization, and they were actually visiting me at our New York office, which is not where their organization is based. We were having a meeting, and it was right when Hurricane Helene happened. And this organization did emergency relief, and my friend was able to launch a campaign from his phone immediately, and be able to have a campaign page up within minutes of the news breaking, and was able to raise the right amount of money to be able to provide the right amount of support for the people that affected by the disaster. And so being able to launch a campaign in the crucial moments right when the news breaks is extremely important. And finally, I think one thing that impacts organizations' abilities to do all of this is systems. If you have a amazing CRM that holds great data and gives you the ability to segment so well, but your donation platform doesn't send the data into it, then what's the point of having all of that great data if you can't get the donor data into it? And this applies to so many different systems. Organizations are increasingly using more and more systems, which is not a bad thing. That's a great thing, to be able to use the right tool for the right task. However, if they can't talk to each other, then it just creates extra work for your team. And I know that that is probably something that's bringing up a little PTSD among many people on the call, because I know that systems not talking to each other is something that is a big headache for many people. I know it was a big headache for Mike's team as well. And I know I've teased it up, but I want Mike to kind of share, now that we've heard these 10 things that are holding nonprofits back, what did you do? How did you see success, and how did you kind of get over some of these things?
Well, really, it all started when we made the decision to move over to Fundraise Up, and started to embrace all of the features that the platform offers. We've been incredibly successful with the implementation of the pre and post donation upsells that Fundraise Up has. That allows the opportunity for individuals to select to become recurring donors in that donation flow. Over 250 of the 728 new recurring donors that we have over the last 12 months have come through that specific channel. Obviously, our abandoned cart recovery implementation, recovering 32% of those abandoned donations. That's amazing, something that we were absolutely not capturing previously. Our donors are very generous and have been covering transaction costs. We did have that previously as an option, but we weren't getting 85% of our donors to cover those costs. So we've ultimately raised more money by allowing donors to cover those costs on the new platform as well. And frankly, I think the experience is more trustworthy. And at the end of the day, we're asking donors to enter their credit card information on a website, and the cleanliness of the experience from start to finish, along with the appearance of the platform, cannot be overlooked. And the opportunity that Fundraise Up offered to us really allowed us to seize on all of those 10 points and take our relatively well-performing digital program and supercharge it. Over the last 12 months, we've just seen incredible growth. Obviously, there were number of crises that we've experienced from a food insecurity standpoint over the last 12 months, specifically the government shutdown and the SNAP crisis that created. The response was overwhelming from our donor base. And again, Fundraise Up was able to handle that without any missed beats. We were really, really fortunate that we had taken the time a year prior, essentially, to make those evaluations and decide to make a move.
Thank you, Mike. Do you feel like there is a kind of single maybe feature or reason behind some of this growth, or kind of just myriad of things?
I think it's a myriad of things, but I think that the pre and post donation upsell, I think really has to be called out for our organization in particular. We had kind of stalled out on our recurring giving program for 2 or 3 years, where we had kind of maintained 12 to 1,300 recurring donors. In a year, we've added 50% of that total. So that really goes to speak for itself. And part of that is the automation that this system offers. Our previous system, while it was supposed to be sending, credit card expiring reminders and things like that, we didn't have the ability to see whether that actually happened. With Fundraise Up, we are able to see that the email was sent, whether it was opened or not, and even resend it if necessary. So really, I would have to say it's the recurring donations that have been most impactful.
Great to hear. Great to hear. And that kind of goes along with what we were sharing at the beginning of donors moving towards recurring across the whole industry. And while I want to take some credit, I think Funders Up has helped a lot, but I think we want to give a lot of the credit back to you, Mike, and the awesome job that your team does in cultivating those donors. I want to summarize some of these things that Mike said and talk about 10 fresh ideas to try this spring. To go along with the 10 things holding you back, we want to kind of reverse that. Here's 10 fresh ideas that your team could try this spring. Mike's team has tried many of these, and we want to talk through those. So quick wins for you. Number one, turn on digital wallets today. And so if your platform has the ability to use Google Pay, Apple Pay, PayPal, Venmo, please turn those on. They are some of the fastest growing payment methods. Donors come to expect them. Central Pennsylvania, for example, went from almost no donors giving via these because they didn't offer them to now 10% of their donations are coming in via these methods. If you use Fundraise Up, this is a simple click of a button, and these are enabled on your platform. 2, set up abandoned cart recovery. This is an extremely important way to recapture donors that have started a gift and then have abandoned it. And so sending them an email right away, sending them an email a day later, a couple days later, to be able to recapture them, be able to get back top of mind. If you're using Fundraise Up, this is a simple email template that you can check a box and turn on, and you can edit the copy to what you'd like. If you are not using Fundraise Up, there's lots of tools out there that can help you do this. I know Siba is one that I've heard of, but lots of tools out there. 3, add a recurring upsell prompt to your checkout. This is exactly what Mike was talking about, of the feature that he feels has been helping him the most. When donors choose a one-time gift, if you ask them to switch that gift to a recurring gift, very often donors will choose to do that. Just that extra ask will help them to do that. And what we've seen is that Central Pennsylvania generates 1/3 of their new recurring donors through this upsell. And so 1/3 of them are people that they might not have even thought were going to be monthly donors, but simply by asking the one-time donors to switch, we're able to capture those. And then we all know a recurring donor is kind of the lifeblood of many organizations, and generates so much extra value for you. 4, ask donors to cover transaction costs and frame it right. We know that asking donors to cover the costs of your platform, cover the cost of your payment processor, sometimes can be a tricky subject, and asking them in the correct way really helps. Asking them so that the fullness of their donation goes towards that mission really helps. And being able to ask them in an optimized way that makes it super easy for them to check a box or uncheck a box to be able to do that. And what we've seen on Fundraise Up, as we've put a lot of thought into how to ask this, Central Pennsylvania was able to have 85% of their donors cover those transaction costs, so that the full amount of the donation is going towards that mission. And then finally, optimize your gift array. Be able to personalize those gift arrays to each specific donor. And if you have the ability to do that, on Fundraise Up, we use AI to take a ton of different data points, donor's location, donor's device type, all hundreds of them, to be able to personalize the amounts that are shown to each and every single donor, because each and every single donor is unique and might want to give a different amount. If you don't have that ability, I recommend A/B testing your array so that it can be as optimized as possible, and so that you can not ask too much and not ask too little, so that you're not leaving money on the table. I'll send it to Mariano. Oh, go for it. Yeah.
So build same-day emergency campaign capability. You cannot really plan for an emergency campaign, so you need to be ready beforehand. So make sure that if something happens and you need to have everything ready on the same day, that you have the capability to do this. It will not overwork your staff, and everything would work smoothly. Launch a recurring donor stewardship track. So your recurring donors, they need a different touch points, and they need a different treatment than your one-time donors. So think about how you are nourishing this relationship, and how you are maintaining your recurring donors so their lifetime value increases. Also run a community fundraising campaign. So this is about peer-to-peer. This is about having a community engagement, engaging your community, asking people to fundraise for you. So this is the best way you have to expand your reach, to reach out to more people, and increase your donor base, and people supporting you.
Mike, I know we've been talking a lot about this same-day emergency campaign, and I know you mentioned the SNAP crisis, and how that was affecting your team, and you were able to launch a campaign right away. We use the word emergency, but I know you were talking about if you have the right tools, it doesn't really seem like an emergency to you.
Absolutely. I mean, during COVID, we were standing up campaigns, but it was taking 3 or 4 days from start to finish to get a new campaign launched. When we came upon the SNAP crisis in late 2025, we were able to get a new form created within minutes, and then we had a very successful text campaign. It is very important to be able to be nimble and move quickly, and also have multiple people be able to set campaigns up. Are you on a platform currently where there's one person in your organization that can there is only one person in your organization that has to set up the forms? We have 4 or 5 people at this point that can set up campaigns and Fundraise Up. So really being able to move quickly there is important.
Thank you, Mike. Let's talk about these last 2 ideas for planting seeds for the summer. I know we're talking about spring fundraising, but you can always think about a couple months in advance as well. On Fundraise Up, we are releasing a new feature in a couple of months called the Giving Cart. And so please get excited for that if you're using Fundraise Up. If you're not, what this feature is the ability to offer multiple items in like a shopping cart style on your website. And so if someone is, I know for Mike's team, if they want to offer the ability for people to give almost a virtual food drive, and where someone can give they can give cans, and they can give vegetables, and they can give multiple different items of food to the food bank, but really they're just giving the dollar amount of those items, and being able to build up a giving cart of their different items and check out with one transaction. It's a very creative way of changing up that donation experience, and a lot of donors really enjoy giving in this way because they can see the tangible aspect of their gift. Secondly, is we have been seeing a lot of organizations using QR codes lately. And this, when they're doing in-person events, when for Mike's team, for example, when people are coming by the food bank, when you are seeing donors in person, giving them the ability to be able to scan a QR code right from their phone. The donation form is pulled up immediately, and making that donation right away is a really helpful way of getting that donation form in their face really quickly. So just two ideas as you're thinking through your campaigns, and as more in-person events start happening in the spring and the summer. And then finally, as you are thinking long-term, and of all the systems that you use, getting real-time visibility into your fundraising performance is how you're able to make quick decisions. Being able to have the right data at the right time is what is able to provide you with the decision-making skills to make a change, or to come up with the right campaign, or make a quick pivot on a real-time appeal. And that takes in Fundraise Up, you looking at the insights dashboard, where you can see in real time how much you're raising. You can filter that by campaign. You can filter that by the element that's on the website. You can see exactly what day and time donations are coming in. And whatever system you're using, please take advantage of the analytics tools, or use more and more analytics tools so that you can get that visibility into your performance. I'll pass it off to Rosita.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing these insights and ideas. And Mike, this was so great to see those amazing results, even despite all of the circumstances. So, yeah, I just wanted to quickly share with you the results of the poll that we've been conducting earlier. So just so you don't feel alone in those pain points. So 27%, which is the highest results, it was missing opportunities to convert to recurring. And we can absolutely relate to that. Same donation experience for every donor, 22%. Personalization is a major pain point. Making changes based on guesswork instead of data, 17%. Manual data entry delaying donor follow-up, 15%. Outdated donation forms that don't work well and can capture in-person giving, those are 10%. So hopefully that our today's session gave you some idea of what you can actually do with all of those pain points. And before we wrap this up and start with our Q&A session, I just wanted to summarize what we've been talking about today. And if it can be just one thought, donors who trust their giving experience give again, give more, and bring others along. So everything we talked about today, the conversion wins, the retention plays, the operational fixes, it all compounds into that. So with that, let's move on to Q&A session. I see many of you in the chat and in the questions tab. And thanks, team, for answering some of those questions already. But still, it'll be great if we can talk through them out loud. So the first one, are these features available now? I think it's for you, Will, about the features we talked about in tips 9 and 10.
Yeah, so everything I talked about today, which is, the recurring plan upsells, the abandoned cart reminder, the ability to have AI suggest the amounts, the ability to cover costs are all available in Fundraise Up today. Check of a box and you have it on your donation forms. QR codes are available today as well. You can generate them right from the Elements dashboard in Fundraise Up. And the only one that I mentioned today that is not available is the giving cart, and that is coming out in a month or two. And so that's the only feature that I was more of a teaser.
Great, thank you. The next question, is there a way to see cart abandonment rates in Fundraise Up overall and for individual campaigns? So I'll pass this to Mariano. Can you help with this one?
Yes, so you can see there are several ways of doing that. So you can export, you can export all of the abandoned donations, people who abandoned the checkout, and you can see which campaign they were coming from, and if they selected any other, if they inputted any other information, it's captured there. So you can export that and see on a spreadsheet. You can also see how many, or the percentage of people that you are converting back. So let's say that in a given month, 100 people lost, didn't complete the donation. So you can see, and then you enable Fundraise Up emails that are recovering these people. So then you will be able to see the percentage of people that was completing a donation after they receive the reminder.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Another interesting question, how is AI being implemented and how should we be designing our website and social media to complement your AI work? Will, can you please take it?
It's a great question. And everyone's asking about AI nowadays. I would say we use AI in multiple ways. So the way Fundraise Up uses AI is we first are able to use it to feed the donation form to personalize the ask amounts. So our system is taking the device type and the location and the IP of any user that goes onto your form and is able to use AI to suggest the correct amount to them. We're using AI to be able to suggest the correct recurring upsell. So Mike mentioned this recurring upsell to us, that feature has really helped his fundraising a lot. And we're using AI to be able to say, oh, you are going to give a $100 gift. Why not we suggest a $20 a month? Or that's from me. I'm not as smart as AI. They might have a different number. But upsell, and as Mike has seen, a third of his recurring donors are coming from that. So that is able to suggest those super well. We're able to use AI to determine how we should suggest donors to cover the transaction costs. And should we have that button pre-checked for a donor? Should we have that button unchecked and the donor has to check it? Each donor is going to have a different preference, and there's going to be a different way of suggesting that based on that donor's type. AI can help us with that. AI can help us with retrying donations. So when someone is making a recurring donation and their donation fails, maybe their credit card expired, maybe something was up with their bank account, whatever it is, often installments fail. And how many times should you retry that donation? And when should you retry it? Should you retry it the next day? Should you wait 3 days? Should you wait 7 days? whatever it is. Our AI is used to optimize that retry process so that you are able to recapture those recurring donors, get them out of that failed status as quickly as possible. And those are off the top of my head. Those are 4 ways that Fundraise Up is using AI, and we want to use it in even more ways to optimize that donation experience for you.
100%.
Yeah, no, just complement, since the question was about the website, there's even some elements with AI, right? Like the floating button. I think that it will select the text to show supporters based on whatever you feed on the campaign level. So yeah, as Will mentioned, AI is all over the platform in different aspects. So it's kind of complex to just point out to one way of using it, as there are so many capabilities.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much both for this great overview. And let's go to another question. We have many of them today. Can Fundraise Up be used on top of Luminate online forms or no? And can you confirm that Fundraise Up has native integration with Bloomerang? So Mariano, can you please help us with integration?
Of course, we have a native integration with Bloomerang. So all data is flowing from Fundraise Up to Bloomerang. So we have all live data. You have immediately a donation is made in Fundraise Up. You immediately have that on the CRM. But the question about the forms, I think that Fundraise Up has its own forms. So I don't think that you can use the forms from Luminate with Fundraise Up. So you will either choose one or the other. But you can totally use the Blockbug ecosystem using Fundraise Up forms. And we have tons of customers who do this.
Great. Awesome. Ian, the last question, because our webinar is coming to an end. So this is the question for each of you. Will, Mariano, Mike, if you have to give each member of the audience just one takeaway they can take from the session, what would that be?
Oh, this is a great question, Rosita, and I have so many, so I got to narrow it down. I think that your tool matters, and so I think that through our 10 things holding us back and our 10 tips, often those can be summarized by what tools you use, and what tools you use are the things that are able to help you towards launching a campaign in seconds when a crisis happens, are able to propel your recurring program to be able to raise a ton more this year and meet goals that you might not have even had 3 years ago. And I think that putting a lot of thought into the tools that you are using and maybe looking into what tools I could be using, I think is something to maybe take some time, sit back and think about, because often we look at our tools that we're using and just say, that's the way it is. But it doesn't always have to be.
I would suggest personally to optimize for mobile donations and enabling wallet payments. So making it easier for donors, right? So they are on the phone, so you need to have a good form that works on the mobile phone. And by digital wallets, it's easier to make a donation. You don't need to get a credit card and type out the numbers. So the easier it is to make a donation, the more you will convert and more likely are people to come back. And of course, always try to convert one-time donors into monthly supporters, because at the end of the year, the impact is much greater that way. So,
And I would have to say, don't wait. Don't wait to optimize. Don't wait to decide whether the tools that you're using are suited for what you want to do in the digital space. There will always be a reason to put it off, but you can never plan for when you will need to have more capacity or be able to do things that you're not able to do right now. So take the time, decide whether the tools meet your needs that you have now, and whether you anticipate they will continue to meet your needs, and then make that decision and potential move. And don't let things like migration stand in your way. The team at Fundraise Up was incredibly helpful at moving our recurring donations over. The process went incredibly smoothly. And we ultimately had about 100 donors that we had to reach out to get those donations moving. Everything else was flawless. So really have to say, just act now.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So we see more and more questions coming in the chat and in the questions tab. I see team answered most of them, but if we miss anything, we'll connect with you afterwards. Don't worry about that. And just before we say our goodbyes, this is a little gift for you for this spring fundraising season. At this slide, you see QR code. If you scan it, you'll be able to apply for a free donation form audit. This is going to be a personalized session where we'll recommend you what to remove, what to add to your donation experience, and how to ultimately improve it for this spring season. So while you do that, I want to say a huge thank you to you all for coming to this webinar, for being so active in the chat, asking your questions, learning. This was amazing. Also, a huge thank you to Mike for sharing Central Pennsylvania's food bank story so openly. It's so inspiring, and I know it'll resonate with most people on the call. And big thank you to Will, Mariano, for making this so practical, actionable, for answering all of those questions. And yeah, we're rooting for every organization on this call. If you'd like to explore more about Fundraise Up, please go to our website, connect with our team. And yeah, thank you all. Happy spring fundraising. Take care. Bye.